with the eyes of the world focused on Virginia Tech's campus, many were unsure how this damaged and still hurting community could get any sense of normalcy back.
For many, sports became the catalyst, which began the long road of healing. We're joined by our sports anchor, Billy Parvatan. Billy, how did the sports community reach out to Virginia Tech?
Well, Rebecca, support for the Hokies spread across the nation, and as Connor Doherty looks at it, it even brought longtime rivalries together.
Following the tragedy, the outside world, particularly the sports world, set aside long-time rivalries to show love and support to the Hokies.
Now, that's what was so unique about this situation, is all the other schools, even some of our biggest rivals and arguably our biggest rival, reached out to Virginia Tech when we really needed it.
In the weekend following the attack, the first major sporting event on campus was held when the Hokies baseball team hosted the Miami Hurricanes at English Field. Before the game, Miami donated $10,000 to the Hokies Memorial Fund. The game had a record attendance of over 3,000 people, and while the Hokies lost 11-9, the outcome of the game didn't matter in the end. And in the outfield hung two posters from the Hurricanes, both signed by thousands of Miami students. But the tribute to memorials didn't end there.
You know, there were so many coaches that I coached with over the years, and the list goes on of the people that wanted to pay their respect to Virginia Tech. You really did appreciate them at that particular time.
Just one day after the Miami game, Ohio State took the field for their annual spring game, but this time with the Virginia Tech logo on their helmets instead of their traditional Buckeye stickers. Ohio State wasn't the only team who used their spring game to pay respect. Penn State students dressed in maroon and orange.
We are with you.
And one section of students formed the shape of the VT logo. They ended their pregame ceremony with the Let's Go Hokies chant and played the Virginia Tech fight song. Down the East Coast, ACC rival Florida State lit their famous unconquered statue in solidarity with the Hokies. It was the first time ever the statue was lit for an event outside FSU's campus.
As the support continued to come in from other schools, longtime rivalries were quickly put aside. East Carolina University pledged just 3 days after this tragedy to help out their ACC rival.
With the spring game canceled, the season opener on September 1st versus East Carolina was the first time since the tragedy that fans could pack Lane Stadium to cheer on the football team. As promised, the Pirates presented a $100,000 check to the Hokie Spirit Memorial Fund before the game, which, as Nick DeSimone reports, was a game unlike any other.
Pirates athletic director said in a letter to the university, quote, "That terrible day and the resulting sorrow have prompted each of us to reconsider our priorities and place all of our daily activities in a proper perspective. The competitive spirit we share with our Hokie brethren is now prompting the Pirate Nation to action. The ECU Department of Athletics and the ECU Educational Foundation Incorporated, Pirate Club, announced today our commitment to present a check of $100,000 to Virginia Tech administration at the season-opening ECU VT football game September 1 in Blacksburg."
With College game day on scene and a sellout crowd of nearly 67,000 fans out to cheer on the Hokies, the first game of the season is what many say helped the Blacksburg community return to a state of normalcy.
But I thought that was a time where people could come, have a cause, and make sure we all were all together, working with each other. For our common goal that particular day.
In a ceremony before the game, former Governor Tim Kaine and the rest of Hokie Nation took a moment to thank the first responders.
Will present a check in the amount of $100,000 to the Hokie Spirit Memorial Fund.
In the final minutes leading up to kickoff, a hush fell over the stadium as the announcer asked for a moment of silence, followed by the release of 32 balloons. On the Hokie Vision screen, a video tribute to the victims played, something Ross says changed the tone for the rest of the day.
After the video played before the game on the Hokie Vision screen, I don't think anybody wanted to play the game. I don't think our players wanted to hit ECU's kids, and I don't think East Carolina's players wanted to hit our kids.
As Beamer led his team through the tunnel, past the Hokie Stone and onto the field, he says the atmosphere was like no other.
But I never felt like that before. I mean, it was something different than I'd ever experienced.
Instead of booing the opposing team, both teams came out at the same time, united. The Hokies got off to a slow start, falling behind 7-3 in the second quarter. It looked as if ECU had plans to spoil VT's big day as they drove down the field nearing scoring position, until Macho Harris intercepted a pass and ran it back all the way for a touchdown with just 3 minutes left in the half. The score brought the fans to life and gave Virginia Tech a 3-point lead at halftime. A fourth-quarter touchdown pass by Sean Glennon then put the game away, as the Hokies were victorious 17-7 in their first game of a memorable season.
It was a hard game for those players because usually when you're in that tunnel, you're focused and you want to go out there and cream the other guy. I never got that feeling that day. I think it was more like one big tailgate that came into one community, communal healing afternoon at Lane Stadium.
Roth says being in Lane Stadium for that game is what really helped bring the community together.
And it's that cumulative effect of those euphoric highs and those horrible lows. That's what makes us all Hokies.
In Lane Stadium, Nick DeSimone, Tech Tonight.
The tragedy that occurred on April 16th had an effect on all sports teams, especially the ones in season. VT softball tried to balance coping with the tragedy while also trying to return to a regular routine. Through the ups and downs, Virginia Tech's Scott Thomas has been head softball coach for 22 seasons. And when he heard news of a shooting on campus, he began making sure all of his players were safe.
We call up everybody on their cell phone, try to get a connection with, make sure everybody was safe. We had one girl who did not take her phone with her to class that morning, and found out later she was over in Daring Hall and was safe. But you're running through your mind, the worst case scenario here, how we're going to handle it.
In the days after, Thomas made sure his players knew the coaching staff was there if they needed to talk.
I had them all come to my house, kind of get them out of that situation, talk to them about, being safe, being cognizant of how major the situation was. Obviously, they were upset, trying to make sure that they understood that we were there to help.
Thomas worked to provide a sense of normalcy with the team, something he says helped his players move forward.
We went ahead and started practicing 2 days later and said, hey, we're going to go back to not being afraid of what's going on. I think that people were appreciative that we were playing, that we were, everybody was okay. We were going to continue on and do things that just like we had been.
And 10 years later, Thomas says he's proud of the community at Virginia Tech.
The shooting was 10 years ago, but its memory lives on.
How the legacy of the 32 continues around campus.